This podcast is brought to you by Knowledge at Wharton. For more information, please visit knowledge.wharton.upenn.edu.
If you have a loved one in a nursing home and that person has had an issue with abuse of some kind, the rule used to be arbitration, especially if that home was receiving funding from the federal government. But that has changed with a ruling from an agency within the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, if that abuse can be proven, the family involved could potentially sue the home for damages. Taking a look at this, we're joined on the phone by Lex Frieden, who is at the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston. He is a professor of biomedical informatics and physical medicine and rehabilitation at the school. And also joining us on the phone is Ruquiijah Yearby, who's a professor of law and associate director of the Law Medicine Center at Case Western Reserve University. Lex, great to have you back on the show. Thanks for joining in.
Hi, Dan. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Ruquiijah, great to have you on as well.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you. For both of you, Lex, I'll start with you. Your opinion on this move to challenge the rule, or I should say to change the rule and potentially allow lawsuits.
Well, I think it's important for a number of reasons, Dan. First of all, it's important to point out that people have received settlements in the past who have had complaints at nursing homes and have taken arbitration hearings forward. They received some rather large settlements in some cases. However, this information has never been made public. Right. And that's the most important aspect of this provision. Now, when people actually take action against a nursing home and when the case is heard, the data from that will be available to the public, so you can use it in making judgments about whether you want to be in a certain nursing home or not.
Ruquiijah?
Yes, I think it is important because as we look at the spread of arbitration across the United States and various other contracts, the problem is that you are required to sign up for arbitration before the dispute happens. And so this is important because it doesn't allow the nursing home to require people to sign up before a dispute happens. They have to wait until after a dispute happens. And so you can balance your objectives a little bit better and decide whether you want to go to court or not.
The big part is, as Lex kind of mentioned, is the fact that in many cases, when you had an arbitration settlement, what happened really didn't come out, and that has a big impact on the industry, Ruquiijah, in terms of people going forward, in terms of future residents of these facilities.
Yes, and furthermore, in arbitration, it's different than in court because sometimes in arbitration you have to share the costs along for paying the arbitrator. It often is not easy because the arbitration is not necessarily held close to you, and you don't get an opportunity to voice your concerns through discovery as you would in a court.
Well, and I guess, Lex, the biggest thing for the homes, and from what I understand, the possibility of challenging this may come up at some point. But the fact that a lot of these facilities, because of arbitration, were probably able to save, for each individual facility, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of the year because they didn't have to go to court on a lot of these cases.
Well, they will argue that. I'm not sure that's the case because I think a lot of the arbitrations actually wound up finding on behalf of the resident and their family. But the cost of paying attorneys may actually increase, and I suppose that's their major concern. I just think it's, from a consumer standpoint, Dan, it's important for people to know where they are living, where they are thinking about living, where they're having a loved one living. And we have in this country today about 1.5 million, 1.5 million people who are living in these homes. And many of them really are substandard in terms of the care they provide. Now, a lot of that data is online now. You can get that from from the Nursing Home Compare website that the federal government operates. But a lot of the information about the details that are behind some of the shortcomings are not available, and they will be now with this provision.
Your comments are welcome at 844-WHARTON, 844-942-7866. We're talking about the change in the law regarding nursing homes and potential arbitration or being able to go sue a nursing home if something happened to a loved one in your family. Again, 844-942-7866 is the number if you have a question for our guest, Lex Frieden, University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston, and also Ruquiijah Yearby, who is with Case Western Reserve University, professor of law and associate director of the Law and Medicine Center. Ruquiijah, I guess also the other piece to this is arbitration in general, because that is something that is obviously very well used across the board in business, in many businesses. I get the sense that maybe this is just as much an attack on trying to remove arbitration as a piece to discrepancies just in general. Obviously, this is the first step in that process.
Yes, I think it is. I think that you have seen a number of federal agencies, including the Consumer Agency, really moving to shift arbitration out of contracts. And so you see it used right now in employment contracts, barring people from bringing claims for discrimination, sexual harassment, as well as in banking claims. That's one of the major issues in the Wells Fargo, where they opened up accounts without people knowing, and now they're forced to go to arbitration. So I think it is a move, and CMS, the agency that passed it for nursing homes, said that this is just their first step in terms of the contracts that they review in Medicare and Medicaid.
Well, what was it specifically that CMS saw that they really wanted to push this change going forward?
They've seen a number of things. So I think this is the move since the passage of the Affordable Care Act with really making things more public. And one of the things that they also made public was that who owned the nursing home, because that's one thing that is not always public. You often have large corporations owned by other people. And so this is making that information more aware, and just as was mentioned before, about making it aware about the substandard quality of care and the lawsuits about the nursing home.
And the quality of the care, Lex, has obviously been a something that has popped up over the last many years in terms of some of the things that go on in some of these facilities, the people that are working in them, obviously the quality of work that they're providing for people, and it's a tough job for many of those employees that work in nursing homes to begin with. But there's a level of care that's expected, and if it's not met, that ends up being a major concern.
Well, one problem leads to another. If there are good people who work in nursing homes who try to help the people who live there and provide care. But if there's not sufficient staffing in that place, and those people are stressed, they're overworked, they're not able to do their jobs very well, and sometimes they don't behave properly. And these problems sort of compound one another. So you have a problem in the staffing issues, in the training issues. One of the biggest problems that they've found in some of the studies recently is that nursing homes use a lot of these drugs to keep people more quiet and more relaxed. And this causes a lot of problems because the people now are in the bed. They're not able to walk safely to the bathroom. They sometimes lose track of what time it is. They have bed sores because they're not moving around. This is one of the new efforts that CMS, I think, is moving forward, trying to eliminate the use of these kinds of drugs unless there's a specific condition that demands that. But overall, I think nursing home care has improved since the early 2000s, and that's largely a result of additional kind of oversight provided by both federal and state agencies.
But will there continue to be, and maybe I'll get your opinion on this, will we see more investigations into how these facilities are being run going forward?
I don't know if there'll be more investigations, but there'll certainly be more data available as
Right.
a result of this provision. The investigations are largely carried out by state agencies that are responsible for regulating the homes, and they have done in recent years a pretty good job of publishing the data that they have available. But of course, in these private settlements, they don't have those data.
I guess, Ruquiijah, also is kind of playing off something Lex just said, is that the need to push this type of rule change forward almost needed to come from the federal level. It couldn't happen on a state-by-state basis, could it?
No, it would take quite a while, and currently the Supreme Court has ruled to uphold arbitration agreements, particularly in nursing homes. And so on a state-by-state level, the states are sort of hampered from the Supreme Court's ruling unless they can show that there's been some unconscionability, that there's been some unfairness, and tie it to their consumer protection laws. So this definitely needed to come from the federal government, in particular from Health and Human Services.
And I wanted to get into those Supreme Court rulings for a second. For those people that don't know, maybe you can kind of give the Reader's Digest version of why the Supreme Court has kind of ruled in this area on arbitrations and the impact that it's had here, especially with nursing homes.
Oh, right. So there is a Federal Arbitration Act which allows for arbitration agreements. And what we've seen, the Supreme Court in Merritt ruled that a West Virginia court tried to prohibit the use of arbitration agreements in long-term care facilities. And they said that states could not abolish arbitration agreements. And then you saw in another case that was dealing with the Credit Repair Act, and the court saying, again, we're going to limit your opportunity, your right to limit the right to arbitration. And so what that has done is that has allowed companies, nursing homes, to add arbitration agreements to all their contracts.
Well, without the kind of the caveat involving the funding issue on this, does this bill, does this rule change really have any teeth to it, or could it have even come forward?
No, I think it really is important that it is tied to Medicare and Medicaid funding because the government has limited nursing homes, hospitals, physicians, opportunities tying it to Medicare and Medicaid funds. And because Congress has spoke on this issue 5 times before in terms of allowing arbitration agreements in healthcare contracts, this is pretty much the only way that the government could do it right now. Your
comments at 844-WHARTON, 844-942-7866 is the number to give us a call. Lex Frieden from the University of Texas Health Science Center joining us, as well as Ruquiijah Yearby from Case Western Reserve University. Again, 844-942-7866. If you can't get to the phone, you're more than welcome to send us a question via Twitter. You can use either the show's Twitter account at BizRadio, B-I-Z Radio 111, or my Twitter account, which is at Dan Loney 21. So, Lex, then, with this kind of in place, do you expect to see some sort of challenge up the line against the changes that have been made? Obviously, the organizations that represent nursing care, nursing homes, and the people that work there cannot be very happy with this change in rule.
Well, I would question whether the people that work there are concerned about it or not. I think probably the ownership is concerned because they may be they're going to have to up their game in order to compete in the marketplace, and that's the big thing here. The more information people have to make decisions, the better decisions they will make. And now with the data that we have available through Nursing Home Compare, through state agencies that are providing data about the inspections they do in these homes and so on, people can make generally good decisions. They can see about the quality, they can see about the dietary provisions in the nursing home, they can see about the staffing, and they can find all this information before they make decisions. And I think people who work in nursing homes are generally committed to providing the best service that they can.
Right.
So I don't think they will object to it. The corporations that own these homes may well have concerns about it, but at some point they have to recognize that the restrictions are getting tighter, and if they want to compete, they just have to do a better job of providing services.
But it is actually a piece to kind of the healthcare industry where you are going to have more scrutiny by the families that are potentially having one of their loved ones moved in there. They want to make sure that they look at absolutely everything, as you said, dietary conditions, reports on facilities, up and down the line, because they want to know that their person that's going into this facility is going to be well taken care of and not mistreated in any way, shape, or form. So the companies have to really, for some reason, I guess it seems like they don't realize this.
Well, they will. I mean, it's a competitive marketplace, Dan, and you and I may be the next ones in line to shop for one of these places. So,
I've got a few years left, Lex, before I get there.
But you may well have a family member that you're supporting and assisting, and in any case, these data are so important for us, and I think that people need to be wise shoppers when they're looking at nursing homes on their own behalf and on behalf of family members. They need to look at all these data, but they need to go and visit. They need to ask questions. These are just tools that people can use to be good shoppers.
Well, and the other part to it is a story that we've talked about on this show is the fact that the baby boomer generation is getting older, and there's more of them that are kind of reaching into that age, just exactly what you played off of, Lex, there, that the need for nursing homes potentially is going to rise in the next 10 to 20 years.
Well, the need rises, and also, we have this elderly abuse that occurs throughout the population, and we need to be concerned about that. We need to be concerned about that happening in these institutions as well as in the community at large. These provisions that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services are looking at are intended to improve the quality of life for older people in the United States. And the Administration on Community Living has been doing a great deal of effort to try and find alternatives to nursing homes, because most people, if you look at surveys done by AARP and other organizations, most people don't want to live in a nursing home. The problem is, at some point in your life, if you have so many needs, that may be the last resort. So we want to make sure that these are good places for people to be.
Well, Ruquiijah, then I guess then the with the numbers potentially increasing and the fact that it's already a very competitive marketplace, are we going to see a potential growth in terms of the numbers of facilities that will actually be available across the United States in the next several years?
Yes, and I think that one of the questions I have just about this rule is, will it actually apply to the various other forms of long-term care facilities, including skilled, including assisted living facilities, continuing retirement facilities, and so it's not really discussed in detail whether they will focus on those in terms of arbitration. I want to say, though, in terms of competition, that's not always the case with skilled nursing facilities. In fact, when you look at places like Chicago, Illinois, that there is not on the same level of competition as every place else. And so what's important is that if the facilities are being sued, that they are actually, that information is public and that they're changing the types of patient care that they give people in response to that, because that is a major issue, particularly in urban areas and low-income areas.
So then there could be a concern also about the rules and regulations from state to state in what a facility actually may be able to or not be able to do.
Well, Medicare is supposed to cover and be standard across all 50 states, but those who go and check the care are on the state level. And so even though you have those regulations and laws in place, you do see a difference in the type of care provided different populations.
I guess then you would like to see maybe even a higher level of coordination than between Medicare, Medicaid, and the state level, but realistically, is that something that we could expect to see happen because of, one, just the overburdening of the governments both at the federal and the state level, but also just the ability, the personnel to be able to do it?
Hopefully so. You do have personnel, and I think when you look at arbitration agreements and requiring that it be signed after the dispute, hopefully that's the first step in the federal government really getting more involved in regulating nursing homes. Another thing that they need to do is actually look at the numbers of staff. For instance, in Chicago, Illinois, there are different staffing levels, even though there is the same payment amount going to facilities. And you can see that when the facilities are owned by the same people. And so I think that is the next step that CMS can do, is really looking at the staffing and the nursing hours that are given, and that can affect their quality of care as well.
I guess, Lex, in the end, this ends up being a great thing for the industry overall, because if there are issues now, because funding could potentially be pulled, this will focus, I should say, the companies to really look at every little piece of their operation and not have stuff kind of slip through the cracks.
Absolutely. Accountability is really important in the healthcare industry, and I think quality of care must improve for people in order to enjoy the years of their lives that they have available to them. Family members need to appreciate these kinds of programs so that they will have many opportunities to review the care that someone is receiving. And also, Dan, I think it's important for people who are listening to your program, who may be in nursing homes or who may have loved ones in nursing homes, there are practices in place in every state where complaints can be filed. So you can go to a state website in every state and file a complaint about a nursing home. If you see abuse, if you have experienced abuse, it's very important that we let the regulators know that this is happening so these things can be straightened out.
And potentially then now, because of the shift away from arbitration, if you do file these instances and they do come up, the potential of them going to court or actually just being out in the public and seen becomes greater at this point.
Exactly. And let me mention, too, that just because this rule has come down, that enables people to sue before they go to arbitration, or at least prevents them from signing something that will cause them to go to arbitration even before they know they need to, they may still choose that route. Many people will choose to go to arbitration before they sue for a number of reasons. So this doesn't eliminate that possibility, and people may still choose to do that.
Well, Ruquiijah, what do you expect to see happen now that this rule is in place and we could potentially see more information out there in the public about these facilities?
Yes, I expect to see that there will be a shift back to more lawsuits actually going to court because of just the number of continuing cases of substandard care. I think that it opens the door to people being able to challenge some of the issues that continue to happen, which was mentioned, right, that the over-medication of people sometimes, and falling out of beds, bed sores, nutrition, and that was also part of the rule of trying to improve nutrition as a way to address bed sores.
Great to have you both on the show. Thank you, Lex. Thank you, Ruquiijah. Great to have you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dan.
Thank you. Lex Frieden from the University of Texas Health Science Center, based in Houston. Ruquiijah Yearby at Case Western University, Case Western Reserve University, professor of law and associate director of the Law Medicine Center.
For more business news and analysis from Knowledge at Wharton, please visit knowledge.wharton.upenn.edu.